Good evening, everyone. Happy Thursday, and welcome back to the Man Cave. It's that time of week once again. Brother Jeff, how's it going in Florida?
It's going. It's been
I'm
cool.
I'm digging
Enjoying
that
it.
hat. I'm gonna need one of those. Tanya, get with Jeff. Get with my people here and figure out how I'm gonna get one of those hats.
Where the heck did I get that? It's from the Tipsy Elves.
Okay.
That's awesome. Ryan's with us. Hank, David, Anthony, Levi, awesome. Uh, I'm ready for some bourbon, and it's that time of week, so uh, I think I'm gonna hopefully finish off this bottle of 18-year-old Elijah Craig tonight. I've been working on this bottle for a while. I've had it, I don't know, I've had it for a pretty good while now, and it's been very good. Hey, Russ, George, two Russes in here tonight. Scott, yeah, this I like Elijah Craig. The Elijah Craig small batch, the regular baseline Elijah Craig is what I like to call a really right bourbon at the $25 price point or whatever that particular bottle cost. It's one of the less expensive bottles of decent bourbon, and we have a dead soldier. So there we go. All right.
In unison, no less.
Yeah. So, but I like Elijah Craig. It's a really nice bourbon at the base level, and I've got a couple bottles. Uh, they're kind of off. I've got a bottle of the Toasted Barrel, which at $60, I won't buy that one again. But I do like the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, which is like I think $69 maybe. I don't remember the exact pricing. I like a lot of the barrel proof stuff that I've had, and so the Elijah Craig's just a good one if you're new to bourbon or if you want to start learning to taste bourbon. I think the base Elijah Craig is a good starting point, and because it's easy to get. You can walk in any liquor store and find that. It's a really good. It's a typically a normal level of sweetness for a bourbon, and I think the small batch stuff is 90 proof maybe. I don't remember what the proof on the because I don't have any of it here. You don't know what that is, do you, Jeff?
Nope.
No. Fran, glad you could make it. So, what are you having, Jeff?
Well, I'm having heaven hell again.
Awesome.
Telling you, it's
I got.
becoming my new favorite.
I'm hoping that when I go back to the liquor store, I'm still going to see that because I have a feeling that one's not one of the ones that's easy to come by here. So, cheers, Tanya. You got something poured down there? You
Cheers.
got coffee going?
Coffee.
Yeah. So, for those of you that have been aware that I've cut myself off from buying any new bourbon until I empty at least 10 bottles, this is number nine. This is nine out of the 10. I've still got to get rid of one more bottle before I can buy anything else. And the reason I've done this is because my bourbon shelf, the place that I have to stack bourbon's too full. I don't have room for any more bourbon on it. And I'm trying to get myself out of the habit of buying new bottles of stuff especially stuff that I haven't had before. I've spent a couple years here now learning what I like, and I kind of know what I like now. So I'm ultimately, if I could have my way, I would have no more than 10 bottles of bourbon here on the counter. Yeah, Russ, that's what I'm thinking. I've got a bottle over here that's from Southern Distilling, which is a local distillery a few miles down the road from here. Tanya, it's the Paragon. That that bottle of Paragon that I have is the one that's the next. That's the closest one I've got to being empty, but I'm kind of saving on that one because that's a really, really, really great bourbon in my opinion. And I don't know when I'm going to go buy another bottle of it because that's a $70 bottle. Uh, I don't know which one's gonna empty next. It may be another month or 6 weeks till I actually empty another bottle at the rate I drink because I only have typically 2 drinks a week, and that's 2 double pours. So I'm taking out about 6 ounces of bourbon a week on average. So it takes me a while. That would be 4 or 5 weeks on a new bottle, on a new 750 ml bottle. So, Scott, glad you could make it with us tonight, too. All right. What's the weather like in Florida, Jeff? Is it cooling off any for you yet?
It was low of 46 today, high of 75.
46.
Yeah.
That's dangerously cold in Orlando.
But tomorrow the temperature's going back up, so go figure.
We've been having freezing temperatures here at night most of the week, I think. I think we've been down below freezing. We're having an unseasonably cool November. We're not usually into this in November. Scott, I do need a bigger glass. My glass will hold more than 3 ounces. I just don't put more than that in it at one time. I'm trying to not become an alcoholic during this process. So I do, but I do. I make a double. I make a double pour. I'm usually pouring three. I'm pouring let's call it a heavy 3 ounces. A generous 3 ounces is a pretty good way to put it. Yeah, and I've got a mug that mug's in the cabinet over there. That's a coffee mug though. That's not a bourbon mug. I could put bourbon in it though. I just can't see the beautiful color of it when I do that. But that's pretty good. This 18-year-old Elijah Craig is a very smooth drinker, but I won't buy it again either. The price point that falls in at, I there's bourbons out there that I like as well as this one that don't cost anywhere near as much as that one does. So that one probably won't show up here again. Hey, Janice.
Janice is in the house.
All right, Tanya, I will bring you back in a bit. We're going to get things cranking here. Paul, welcome aboard. If you guys are having a drink with us tonight, leave me a comment. Let me know what you're having and where you are, where you're checking in from. So Jeff and I decided last week that this month's head to head was going to be stuffed peppers. So here's how that pans out for me. Well, I was talking with Jeff about it here a little bit before we got started. One of the reasons I suck at meal prepping and meal planning is because I'll think it's a good idea today, but tomorrow I've lost interest in it and I don't want to do it anymore. And that kind of set in with me on this stuffed peppers idea. I don't have a problem per se with stuffed peppers. And when we were talking about it last week, I had an immediate idea of what I wanted to do, something that you don't see every day, and I still managed to screw that up. So let's have a look at some pictures here. All right, Jeff, what do we got going on here?
All right. Well, to start mine, to preface it, I did a brisket the day before because I didn't have any brisket in the freezer. So I ran over to Costco and I got a brisket flat. And I did that, and the brisket came out good, but the texture wasn't exactly what I wanted. So I took the brisket, or half the brisket, chopped it up into cubes, put it in a small crock pot along with the au jus, and cooked it for several hours to bring it down to the consistency that I really wanted. I wanted more of uh, a finer pull to it than
Right.
what you would get off of a brisket. So that's what's in the top left bowl is the remains of that cooked brisket.
Oops.
Yep. So my other ingredients there are a bag of cauliflower rice, a
Yep.
bag of pulled pork, a red, yellow, and orange bell pepper, some sweet bell peppers or sweet peppers, and an onion, salt and pepper, and some AGC sweet barbecue sauce.
So last week we were also talking about when we started talking about doing stuffed peppers, I was complaining about how expensive these peppers are. And uh, the next day when Tanya and I were at the grocery store, we found peppers for 98 cents a piece.
Well, you see the size of those peppers there. I got six of them at Aldi's
Yeah.
for six and change. And
So that's
just want to
pretty
say
good.
here, if you can see this, bump, 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 not showing that. Let's get it in there. That is the marinade that I used on the for the injection for the brisket.
Hang on a
I took
minute.
took three
Moore's.
quarters of a yeah took three-quarters of a cup of this. Before I'd been using the miners and I ran out. Didn't realize I'd ran out, so I got this and it was very good. I took three-quarters of a cup, mixed it with a cup of water, and then I used that as my injection. And
Okay.
the reason why I didn't show any pictures of the brisket is it's my typical brisket. I do it to my own mixing, hot and
Hmm.
fast 350. So there was I mean, no reason to show that. You've seen it
Yep.
before. So what I did is I diced up my onions and my sweet peppers real fine. And yeah, the pot's overkill because right after this I was making my chicken white chili. So just use the
Is
same
that
pot.
is that one of Kathy's pots?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me tell you guys, Kathy's got a nice pot collection.
Yes,
She
she does.
does.
Yes, she does.
So are you sauteing those in what?
Uh, Mixture of olive oil and butter.
Good choice. That's a
So,
that's a beautiful choice.
yep. So then in the big yellow bowl, I throw in the pulled pork, the uh, brisket, and to that, I think the next picture will show I'm adding the. Ooh, I lost a picture. Go back. Hmm.
Let me see
Okay,
here.
well, no, did I not take a picture? Give me a second here. Let me see if I took the picture. Regardless of whether I took the picture or not. Uh, no, I guess that picture is everything mixed together, the peppers and the cauliflower rice and whatnot. And I stuffed that into the peppers. I said I had six peppers, stuffed them in real tight. And then a pro tip: some people take and cut the bottoms off of their peppers. I just run a skewer through them and put that skewer right at the height of the pan, so it
Heck
rests
yeah,
on the pan.
that's a good
So
idea.
so that just keeps them all held all nice in place.
I never would have thought of that.
And like I said, I stuffed them down, real tight in the pepper, and then uh, put those out on the bark. And when they were just about done, while they're on the bark, I grated up. This is a smoked cheddar that you can get at Aldi. It's very good slice. So I shredded some of that up, and then I have some of that red chili pepper chili.
Hmm.
And when the peppers were just about done, hopefully the picture is in order. Yep, they're just about done. I put go to the next picture there. Put the cheese on top, put a little dollop of the pepper jelly on there,
Yep,
and finished it off. And if we got them right. Yep. So
it did. Your phone caught the focus on the plate on that picture.
yes, it did. I didn't notice that
It
until I
it
sent it to you.
happens. I hate it when that happens. It happens to me too, and
Yeah,
I have not got the picture I want when that happens.
yeah, that's exactly what it did. So then I think I've got a picture of it cut open, so you kind of
Yep.
see what it looks like all cut open. It was the flavor profile of this is really good. The that brisket
Hmm.
after I did it in the crock pot, finished it off in the crock pot. Man, that stuff was just out of this world. I'd almost thought about using just the brisket and not the pulled pork, but I wanted both textures in there.
Yep.
So that was kind of my play on peppers out of the box. Not doing the usual
Right.
ground beef or some type of
Ground
ground.
beef and rice.
Yeah, and I wanted to make it as keto as I could. I think the final count on that was 7.5 carbs
Yep.
for that whole pepper, which isn't bad.
In some of your prep photos, I noticed you had a bottle of the spicy sweet barbecue sauce sitting out there. Did you add that to this too?
No, I did not. I was going to, and
You left out an ingredient. You left out
well,
something you were going to
no,
put in there.
I changed my mind and decided to put that red pepper jelly
Yeah,
on it, and that really added a nice note to it.
right. Jeff, here's something I'm thinking about. Something your recipes made me think about, and I'm upset now that I didn't come up with this on my own. But
Hmm.
it would probably be cool to stuff a bell pepper with Brunswick stew.
Oh, heck yeah.
Man, and that I think that'd just be amazing. That'd be a nice
Absolutely. I
because
didn't even think about that one, but
you know how thick and hearty Brunswick stew is, and
mhm.
the fact that you had brisket and pulled pork in there made me think about Brunswick stew
Yep,
and
that would
dumping
be
that in a
ideal.
bell pepper. Yep, but that looks good. That looks really good. How'd Kathy like it?
She liked it. I say everybody liked it. They were gone. 2 days. Boom. Had 6 peppers.
Yeah, well, that looks good. Now, let's see here. Good looking stuff, Jeff.
Yeah, but it tasted very good. But I still like a traditional stuffed pepper.
These are the peppers I ended up with, and uh, these are the ones I got for 98 cents a piece. And I was kind of particular when I picked these out. I decided there at the grocery store that I wanted to pick three that I thought would stand up fine by themselves. And I kind of looked at that. I made sure I got the four-sided peppers instead of the ones that only have three sides. You know what I'm talking about, Jeff?
Yep. Yep.
And these guys stood up by themselves pretty good. So uh, this is the ingredients I decided. I decided to go a macaroni and cheese route to stuff mine. So I didn't do anything complicated, and I got some pulled pork out of the freezer to put in here.
Yeah.
So we get started. I get my large saucepan out and I melt some butter because I'm going to make a roux. When that butter's melt, or while that butter's melting, I go ahead and get my macaroni noodles in some water on the stove because this process, making this bechamel, takes about the same amount of time as it does to cook the macaroni noodles. So while those are cooking, I've got that going. When that
John, on your
butter,
on your noodles, did you cook them all the way, or did you leave them at el
no,
dente?
no, these noodles cook. They need to cook for about 10 minutes, and I took them
Hmm.
off at about seven
Good,
for this
because that
project.
extra bake time.
Yeah, I didn't let them. I don't let them go all the way for that. But when my butter gets melted and gets sizzly in the pan, I dump my flour in, and then I just stir that flour until you can see it start to change colors. And I was really happy with this picture, and I hope you can see this, but you can see here that there's a darker brown developing here in this roux, and some of it's lighter colored than the other. That's the visual cue that you have to watch for when you're making a roux. You want that flour to start to change color like that before you add your milk. And when this flour starts to change color, it gets really aromatic. It gets this nutty aroma to it. So when that all starts to change to that brown, I dump my milk in, or I dump about a third of my milk in, and I whisk it together, and then dump the rest of my milk in, and I just stir it constantly for a minute or so to make sure there's no lumps of any kind, and I let that come back to a boil. a slow boil, because once that comes back to a simmer is when it's going to start to thicken up. And while that's doing its thing, I top these peppers and cored out the center, got the cores out, and I put a little bit of seasoning together because I like to season that bechamel. And what I've got here is about, I don't know, it's less than a half a teaspoon of salt, less than a half a teaspoon of black pepper, and I use maybe a half a teaspoon of that Creole seasoning that I have. I like to put something in the bechamel to give it some kick. Normally I would put dry mustard in there today, but today I discovered that I don't have any, that I'm out of that. So I've got to get another container of dry mustard because I like to put that in here when I'm making mac and cheese. So after that came back to a simmer, I dumped those in there and let it simmer for a moment with that in it to get those flavors going. And then I dumped my shredded cheese in, reserving a little bit of it because I'm going to want to add some to the top of these peppers later on in the cook. But what we're making here is, I guess this is called a Mornay at this point. It's a bechamel with cheese added to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stir that and get that nice and smooth. And I drain out that macaroni, dump that macaroni straight into this pan with that cheese sauce and mix it together. Now, what you have here is creamy stovetop macaroni and cheese. You can serve that right out of that pan just like that. It's very good. It's cheap, quick, easy to make. And or you can turn this into a baked mac and cheese by dumping that into a baking pan, topping it with extra cheese, and throwing it in the oven. This is how I make my typical homemade mac and cheese. But here, I just spooned some of that. I ended up just doing two of these peppers instead of three because three of them wouldn't fit in my loaf pan. The third one wouldn't squeeze in there. So I just decided to do two because I wanted to cook these in the cast iron loaf pan. So I filled those guys up fairly full here with that mac and cheese. And I had I cooked on the Camp Chef Woodwind Pro 2400 today, and I had it running at about 350, maybe 375. So I set that guy on there, and I took instead of trying to foil over that, I just took my other loaf pan and set it over the top of that so it'd be covered. And I closed it up and I let that go for 20 or 25 minutes to heat those peppers and macaroni and cheese all the way through in there. And this is what it looked like. It doesn't really look any different at that point, but we're about 25 minutes in here. So I topped that with some more of that grated cheddar. And here I spiked the temperature up to 400 or 425, and I let it go until that cheese had melted nicely on there and it was browned on top. But the foo bar that I have here is that I forgot to put my pulled pork in there. I had that pulled pork ready to go, and when I made that mac and cheese, I forgot to put it in there. I had every intention of putting that in there, and I did not realize that I had not put the pulled pork in there until I was eating one of those. So I guess you could say I had a brain fart of sorts.
Yep.
It was not healthy. It was disappointing. And but I don't know. I was once again trying to do something that's not what everybody else does with stuffed peppers. The ground beef and rice, don't get me wrong, it's good, but that's the typical thing. And I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
try to come up with something that you don't see every day. I did have a look online, and I'm not the first guy on the block that's put macaroni and cheese into a bell pepper and cooked it. That they're out there, but I just used my own method, my own technique, and like I said, I wanted to put brisket in it, and I thought I had brisket in the freezer. And today, when I went to look, I've got no brisket, so I had to use pulled pork. Pulled pork is the only cooked meat currently that I have in the freezer available. So,
Oh, Janice, 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 we love you.
what did Paul say about the microwave?
To par cook them in the microwave.
par cooked. I don't know. The way I cooked these things, they were nice and soft. Uh, they had 25 minutes in the hot oven, and then they had about another 20 minutes uncovered. So they were the skin on those guys on the sides of them were bubbled up nicely when I took them out of that pan. I didn't take a picture after I took them out. I don't know why. I just
And
didn't.
the other thing that we were discussing in our group, which I kind of wish I would have thought of too, was who was it that said to blister the bell peppers before we stuffed them? Was that Steven?
I don't know, but I don't know if I'd want to do that or not.
Somebody
I
was
guess.
saying to blister them first, and I thought, that's
Well,
interesting thought.
they get real soft when you do that. They're not going to stand up for you when you do that. Russ, they were great. I thought they were fine, and
They were
I didn't.
vegetarian.
Yeah, I know mine weren't vegetarian
No,
because
I was just going to say that they had the milk and
I had cheese and butter going on in mine, so mine weren't vegetarian. I don't make a whole lot that could be classified as vegetarian. I use ingredients. My umami ingredients make it not vegetarian. If you throw Worcestershire sauce in there, it's no longer
yep,
vegetarian. And soy sauce, I think soy sauce is vegetarian or
yeah, because
vegan. There's nothing, but I didn't want to put soy sauce. Uh, you know, I've never tried the fish sauce edition. I have put Worcestershire sauce in my bechamel before, and I didn't like how that came out so well. But I can see where it's something that's
I wouldn't
uh,
think fish
not.
sauce and a bechamel would come out very good.
Brian, mine wasn't vegetarian. I don't think cheese falls into the vegetarian category, nor would butter. So Tanya says it would. Let me bring her in here and let her tell us about it.
So vegetarians have no problems with cheese or dairy.
Okay.
It's the vegans that
Vegans
are.
do.
All right. I'm sorry then. See, I don't know. So then mine would have been vegetarian, I guess. That
Yes.
was not my goal, but if it comes out that way, that's fine. So I don't have anything against vegetarians. What I have against is people telling me what I should and shouldn't eat. So yeah, but that's the extent of the bell peppers. I've done a lot of other things with peppers besides this, and one of my favorite things, Jeff, is the atomic buffalo turds, where you core out a jalapeno pepper and stuff it with
Yep.
a seasoned spiced cream cheese mixture. Throw it back on there, and a lot of times those small peppers that you diced and put in
Mhm.
yours, I've seen a lot of people stuff those too with various things like chorizo. And
Yeah.
I might do some chorizo sometime. My butcher shop up the street here's always got homemade chorizo in their case, and I haven't bought any of it yet, and I'd like to. Uh, I saw a thing that I want to try on the griddle where somebody made this breakfast burrito thing with chorizo and scrambled egg. It looked really good, and I'm thinking about maybe giving that a try. I'm still, guys, having a blast cooking on the griddle. That I'm learning as I go, and I'm currently pretty much in love with everything that's come off of it. Tanya and I made yesterday for dinner. I made some quesadillas. I was at the grocery store yesterday and I found some sirloin steak on sale that was one day from going out of the sell by date. Today's date was the sell by date on it, and I bought it yesterday, and I got it for $5 a pound, and it was like, I don't know, a pound and a quarter worth. There were two nice size thick sirloin fillets in there, and I took one of them and I diced it up and I seasoned it and put it in the refrigerator for a while, and then I had some onion and green bell pepper and some of that same cheddar cheese I used here. I took Tanya and I bought some of these Jeff, I don't know if you've tried these yet or not. They're these Mission tortillas. They're flour tortillas, but they're
Yeah, I've
whole
had
wheat
those.
flour. They're
Yeah.
carb friendly. They're like 5 net carbs. They've got like 28 grams of carbs, but there's like 23 grams of dietary fiber in it. So it's more of a keto thing, a keto carb. It wouldn't fall into your diabetic carb category.
Yeah.
But
So I don't do the net carbs. I do the
right,
true carbs.
this one ends up each one of those things ends up with like 5 grams of net carbs, and they tasted okay. They just didn't cook up the way I they didn't brown on the outside like I really like, but they tasted good. They would be better, in my opinion, for a burrito
Yeah.
type
You need
cook than a quesadilla.
you need to go back, John, and a couple months ago, our head-to-head that we did, that
Mhm.
breakfast for dinner cooked,
Yep,
where I did the sausage patty and hash brown and
yep,
eggs, and you need to make that on the griddle. You'll like that.
right. So, yeah, I don't know, Paul. I had done something the week before with I bought I bought this. I bought some tortillas that were too large, and I didn't realize what I was doing because I don't normally buy tortillas for anything. And Tanya did. She let me get out of the grocery store with something that was bigger than I really needed. I'm gonna blame it on Tanya. So,
Dude, I asked you.
yeah,
See if you can find that, John.
I
I've
haven't
had
seen
that.
that.
It's not bad.
It's
Tanya,
not bad.
is that something we can get around here?
Yeah, Ingles usually has it.
Okay, well, but I bought that large one and I cooked those. I made a bacon, egg, and cheese breakfast tortilla out of that thing, or breakfast quesadilla. And that's the one. I think I may have shown it to y'all last week because I folded it up into a quarter circle when I cooked it. That tortilla is a regular flour tortilla, and with the oil I had on my grill, it browned up nicely on the outside. And Tom, I've seen the videos of those smash tacos. That might be something fun to play with on the griddle. Uh, and I think my friend Mark Ashby did a video on that, Jeff,
He did.
recently. I'll have to go back and look. I think I saw him post that in one of my groups. So,
Okay.
but
Are you going to show us pictures of that killer French toast you made?
I am. I added those on.
That's the exact same French toast that I make, minus the liquor.
This I added those in here because I knew we would come up short tonight on time after I looked at what I had. But French toast is one of the things I've been wanting to do real well on the griddle. So the first round of French toast I made was good. I enjoyed it, and I think I may have shown those pictures last week too. I don't remember, but uh, I wasn't totally happy with the French toast texture I had from that cook, so I wanted to try it again. And I had remembered seeing an Alton Brown video several years ago where he did a French toast technique that I thought sounded good at the time. So I went and dug that up, and I borrowed his technique and part of his recipe. This recipe is based on Alton Brown's recipe that I'm going to tell you here, but it's not exactly the same. He used half and half, and I used heavy cream because that's what I had. I had heavy cream in the refrigerator. I didn't have any half and half, and I didn't want to use whole milk. So I think I had a cup. If I remember correctly, there was a cup of heavy cream. There's 3 eggs, just maybe a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. I put in 2 tablespoons of some of that cinnamon, vanilla, run amok maple, Jeff. And Alton Brown used honey, and I'm currently out of honey, so I just use maple syrup instead. That bottle in the middle there is kind of hard to see, but that's some of my homemade bourbon vanilla. So I put in about a tablespoon of vanilla. I put in 2 tablespoons of amaretto. which can be optional, or you can put bourbon in it, or you could put. I was originally thinking about using Grand Marnier, but I just decided to use the amaretto, and then I put in about a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon and into this custard mix.
Which
So
cinnamon did you have, John? Did you have the
it,
Saigon?
yeah, it's that Sam's Club uh, Vietnamese cinnamon. I love that stuff. So I put it all, I dumped all that into a 2 cup measuring cup, and then I just got my whisk and gave it the mix with the whisk to get it all mixed together. Now, this is the night before I'm going to cook. I don't remember what night I cooked this week now or what morning, but this is the night before the cook. I mixed up my custard. I covered that with plastic and I put it in the refrigerator so it'd be ready to go in the morning. I took 3 slices of bread. This bread that I have is the Pepperidge Farms. Uh, what I can't remember the.
Artisanal.
No, it's not that one. It's it's called the Farmhouse Hardy White.
Okay.
So that's one of my favorite breads to make toast and sandwiches with. So I've usually got it around. But Alton Brown's technique is you make your custard overnight just so it's ready to go in the morning. That way you don't have to mess with it in the morning. You could make it in the morning, but this part's important. You take those 3 slices of bread out, you put them on a rack, and you let them stay out overnight so they dry out or start to dry out. And so mine ended up, I guess, having about 10 hours out, and it was dry the next morning. So here we are the next morning. I took my custard and poured it into a quarter sheet pan, and I made more than enough custard to do what I needed. This would have been easily enough custard to do 8 or 10 slices of French toast. But 30 seconds aside, you dump it in the custard, let it sit for 30 seconds, you flip it another 30 seconds, and then you put it back up on this rack, on a rack, and you let it sit there for 5 minutes or so it has time to let that custard distribute within that bread. The fact that we let that bread dry out before we did this makes it take the custard better, and it gives the bread a little bit firmer texture, and it's not as mushy as a typical French toast. It's made with fresh bread. It's got a little bit of bite to it. So, and also while all this is going on, the griddle's preheating. So I take it out to the griddle, and I've got my griddle running on about a medium temperature. It was cold enough that morning that I had to run medium temperature flame to get my griddle up between 350 and 400, which is where I'd like to be for something like French toast. I use my infrared thermometer to know where my griddle temperature is, and I melted the butter. I melted some butter on it and put it down, and I just let it cook until it looks good. And this looked pretty good to me, so I flipped it, let it cook some more, and then I plated it. Now, I deviated one step from Alton's technique here that I'm probably going to employ next time because I still think what I did here could be a little bit better. When Alton takes his off the griddle, he puts them on a rack and puts them in a 375-degree oven for 5 minutes to actually, what he says, complete the cook on that. So I'm going to try that next time. But anyway, I tossed these guys on the plate. I added I stole some of Tanya's strawberries and blueberries because I think that just looks good and it's great to have on a plate of French toast. A little bit of maple syrup and some powdered sugar on top, and it's amazing. It's just a beautiful French toast. I don't know what else to say about that.
The only difference I would have done with that is use brioche.
Brioche.
Yeah, that's my favorite for French toast. If
A
I
lot,
have,
lots of people like that. Tanya, next time we're at the store, remind me to see if I can find a brioche loaf that Jeff, can you buy, or Tanya at Ingles, can I buy a brioche loaf that's not sliced
I
out of
know at
their
Whole
bakery?
Foods you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe so.
I don't have a Whole Foods, so if I can buy a brioche loaf unsliced, I'd probably try that because that way I could slice it off a little thicker. Because brioche is a softer bread than most breads, and I'm gonna want to make sure that I can firm that up a little bit by drying it out or making
Yep.
it a little thicker. Brioche will mash; it'll flatten out real quick, and it will get real loose in that custard. I figure. So I've not made French toast with brioche before, so I'm willing to try it. I think Stephen Hickey mentioned I should try brioche as well, so it's
It's my
definitely
go-to. If I know I'm going to make French toast, I'll
yeah.
go out and get the brioche. If I don't know, if it's a spur of the moment that I make French toast, then it's whatever bread's on hand.
Now Janice says Texas toast. Now Texas toast is something I was wanting to try, and in fact, when Tanya and I were at the store, I was looking for some, and we were at a Walmart Supercenter, and there was no Texas toast to be found.
No.
That's what I wanted to use.
Hmm.
Uh, I would like the thicker slice. And another thing
Mhm.
Alton Brown does differently is he cuts those into triangles. Uh, he slices the bread diagonally and
Right.
plates it and stacks it, to get a little bit of plate height. Now, what was that Russ was talking about there?
Pan
Purdue?
Purdue.
What is
Yeah.
that?
Oh, well, it translates into lost bread.
Oh, that's the technique for leaving the bread out on the
Yeah.
counter overnight. I
Yeah.
think I think Alton Brown mentioned that too. Now that I think about it, but
Another good bread to use is a good French loaf and cut it on the bias.
well,
Just
I wanna try this with sourdough. I'm wondering,
sourdough would be fine.
nobody's. I love sourdough, and one of the things I'm thinking about doing is, sourdough. Uh, what I think sourdough would be great, but then
The
again, I don't
texture
know.
of it's going to be good. You're going to lose that flavor of the sourdough because that custard's going to overpower that.
Well, the thing I'm curious about with sourdough is when I've got that crumb that's more
Hmm.
open and getting that custard in there. I'm curious about
That's why I
how.
like the French bread. That's got
Right.
a nice crumb to
Yeah.
it.
So, uh, yeah, but the French toast is good. I've made it twice on the griddle now. I've made pancakes a bunch of times, and I'm still working on my man cave pancake batter recipe. So once I have that ironed out, I'll share it with you guys because I'm trying to make what I think will be the most awesome pancakes. So thanks, Sean. Yep. Uh, I just think firmer and thicker breads would do
Hmm.
well. And one of the things I'm also curious about is what would happen if I dried my bread during the day and put the bread into the custard at the end of the day and then put that bread on the rack in the refrigerator with the custard on it. I wonder if that would have any negative impact.
I think it's going to fall apart on you.
You think it would?
Yeah.
Probably would. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. But
But my
I
thought
don't.
is because you don't have a vessel to hold it,
Right.
like because essentially what you're doing is you're making it up to a bread pudding prior to baking.
The other thing, now that you mentioned bread pudding, is one of the reasons I've been playing with this is my mom asked me several months ago that if I would come up with a bread pudding recipe for her that she can make and serve at her bridge clubs. And this is part of what I'm doing here. I think this exact custard is something that would work well for a bread pudding.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
in that case, I am going to use French bread and I'm going to cut 2-inch cubes of
Hmm.
French bread and pour this stuff in over it and see how that pans out and toss it in there.
Now let me add to that, John. Here's something you may want to consider. Do a 50-50 French bread brioche.
Hmm.
Makes a really nice texture.
Right. So Russ says we can make bread pudding at that point.
Yep.
So yep, rosemary sourdough. Hmm. How would the rosemary pan in with the sweetness on this?
Don't know. It's one of those things I would say, try it once, see if you like it.
Yeah, I'm that one I would be cautious. I'm curious about rosemary because I don't typically associate rosemary with sweet things. I'm not saying that it wouldn't work, but I don't think I've ever experienced it before. Tom, you're trying to get me in trouble.
I was waiting for Tom to, I mean, the one
Oh,
week it was the Krispy
man.
Kreme hamburgers, so I knew
Yeah.
Krispy Kreme was coming into this conversation at some
Well,
point.
this is an inside story that's kind of in the past, but Tom obviously remembers it. When I was making videos for Kamado Joe, one of the one week I made a bread pudding using Krispy Kreme donuts. And Bobby Brennan, who was the owner of Kamado Joe at the time, fussed at me for that. He didn't like that for some reason or another. And I never heard the end of it. He ragged on me forever about but man, it was delicious. It was really good. I don't
Be
know.
really good.
Yeah, that video's out there on the Kamado Joe YouTube channel. If you want to go look it up, it's there. And it was delicious. Now the Krispy Kreme donuts do not hold firmness. They don't stay firm, but you probably what needs to happen with them is they need to be left out to dry as well before you do that. And I
Get
would
2 or 3 day old Krispy Kreme donuts.
exactly get a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts and open the box and leave it on your counter for 3 days
Yep.
before you try to do a bread pudding with it, and
Minimum of two.
then they'll be dried out enough to where it'll work really well. But yeah, they need to be dried out too. And
Yeah,
mine
if
weren't
you
dried
took
out.
fresh Krispy Kreme donuts, all you'd have is a mushy mess.
Yeah, mine didn't hold up as well, but it was still good. So uh, I enjoyed it. But I'll the bread pudding thing will come around. I will do that because I told mom I would come up with that recipe, and I want to go back and revisit something Chef Eric did a while back. I can't remember what this recipe was called, but some sort of dessert recipe that he had that was similar to a bread pudding, but it wasn't called bread pudding. He called it something else, Jeff, and I don't remember what it was. And I want to go back and have a look at what he did there because I think I want to incorporate some of that content into this as well. I just don't remember. I'm gonna have to go back. It's a Kamado. It's a video on the Kamado Joe channel somewhere. Uh, I don't guess you remember what I'm talking about, do you, Jeff?
I know what you're talking about. I just don't know the name of it. And challah bread would be outstanding. Challah is, in my opinion, similar to the brioche.
Yeah, I don't
So,
know that it is similar. It's firmer.
well,
It's
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 firmer,
not
but
as
it's got the same.
That's it. Sopa Baracha. That's what
Yes.
Chef Eric made. I want to look at that and see if I can't bring some of that flair into the bread pudding recipe as well. Because thank you, Brian, for remembering that. My memories, guys, I'm getting old and I can't remember this stuff anymore. But that's the recipe that I need
God,
to
let me
go
go
back
get
and
my
look
cane,
at.
John. Oh God, let me go get my
Sopa
cane.
Sopa Baracha. I remember that, and I remember telling myself as soon as I saw that video, I've got to try it. I've got to try it, and I've never done it.
Something's over there tickling Tanya's fancy here.
She's laughing at me.
Yeah, I am laughing at you, but I was also, let me see if I can share this where everyone can see it.
Oh
Doesn't John
boy.
look cute?
Adorable.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well,
Almost
this.
looks as good as me in my hat.
Hey Brian, just out of curiosity, have you tried that recipe, that Sopa Baracha? If you have, I'd love to hear what you thought about it because it looked delicious, and that's definitely. I want to go back and have a look at that. That, if I remember correctly, was one of the first times I saw Eric cook with bourbon. If I'm not mistaken, he had a bottle of Michter's out that was involved in that cook.
And let's go back to the
Or no,
PSA
it
public.
was Bullet. It wasn't Michter's.
Let's go back to the PSA. Publix has prime rib for sale, $6.99 a pound.
Yeah,
Right.
we were gonna go. I was gonna go by there tonight, Jeff, and pick one up. We
I'm
went.
going tomorrow. Get a few.
Well, I have decided, I think, that I'm going to skip it this time around, unfortunately, because I'm sitting here thinking about all this money I've got to spend this month, and I don't think I want to spend. I'm going to end up waiting till the Easter sale to buy another whole prime rib, as much as I'd like to.
We'll buy a smaller piece for the holiday.
I don't know, man. I want to put one in the dry ager and cut it into steaks. I may still do it. I may go get one, but I don't know. I've got a lot of expenses I've got to deal with
Tell
this.
me about it. And the end of the year is rough. It's got the property
Well,
taxes,
the end
got
of the
the
year is just
timeshare,
the beginning of my expenses because I have an important birthday
Christmas.
that rolls around in January, and then Valentine's Day is right behind that.
Yep.
December and January and February cost me a lot of money.
Public service announcement. The Lego Rose Bouquet goes on sale January 1st. That would make a great present for somebody's wife who
Oh
likes
boy.
Legos
Hint,
and
hint, hint,
flowers.
Hey
hint,
Jeff,
hint.
we're getting ready to start a museum here in the house of Legos that haven't been put together yet.
Mm.
We have
I
the
could
Eiffel Tower sitting up there that hasn't been put together yet.
remind me
get
sometime to video the back room back there of all the Legos that my grandson has put together, including the what'd you do with it?
And Anthony,
She moved it to Saturn V.
that sale will run on beyond that. That sale will be running almost this entire month.
Yep. That sale will run right up to Christmas.
Yep. They usually run it for pretty much the whole month of December.
Oh, John, can I ask people something?
Yep.
All right, y'all. So here's the deal. Next week is the holiday party at work, and this year's theme is casseroles.
Hmm.
So we have to bring either a sweet or a savory casserole. And here's the deal. I'm sitting here thinking I want to be a slacker and make something easy. And I also want to make something that I don't have to refrigerate and worry about keeping cool, or that I don't have to heat back up. So has anybody got any ideas of casseroles?
I don't think what you're asking for is possible. I don't think there's any casserole that's going to work at room temperature, sweet or savory.
I could give
Well,
you the
I
pasta
was
salad that's
looking.
in the box. It's just the oil and the spices.
Well, I was looking at this one that was a cherry cream cheese kind of dump cake. On the bottom layer, you put those crescent rolls from Pillsbury,
hmm
and then you mix like some cheese, cream cheese, and like cherry pie filling, and then you like dump some cake mix in and gets that all mixed up, and you put it on it and bake it.
Well, as Janice said, you could do a bread pudding.
Here's
Yeah,
another
Keep it
thing,
refrigerated.
Tanya. I
Time
think
to leave the
you
house.
I think you ought to excuse yourself from that casserole since you've got an hour and a half drive to work.
Yeah, well, that would be fabulous, hon, but that's again not gonna happen. There's a lot of things I'd like to excuse myself from. I'd like to don't take this the wrong way, but I would I'm gonna pull a Scrooge here. I would really kind of like to miss the whole holiday party.
Can you cook it?
Um,
Can you make it and
you
cook it
know,
up there?
well, so that's the
Ta-
whole thing. We don't have a stove.
I thought
Tanya,
you
you
had
could
an
always
oven
get
up
a
there.
pain in your eye. You just can't see going in.
Yeah, but they make a big deal. We have to do this. I mean,
Would you like to
so
take my toaster oven with you?
How
no.
about a batch of Cheez-Its?
That's
I've
not a
already got
casserole.
Cheez-Its, but that's not a casserole.
I've already smoked the Cheez-Its.
And just so you guys know, I kind of sussed out. I was like, casserole. So I asked the person who came up with the idea, how casserole was, and it was like casserole.
Well, none of these people are having to drive an hour and a half to work.
Well, yeah.
Easiest
I know
one
that,
is the green
John.
bean casserole. You heat
Well,
that up in the
again,
microwave.
I have to heat that up because the immediate thing I thought about is I can make John's mama's green bean casserole that I absolutely really love. It's not your traditional green bean casserole. It's just like better than that.
Mhm.
You know, I would rather not eat traditional green bean casserole, but I really love Janice's green.
Is there any
green
way to power a
casserole.
crock pot from a cigarette lighter adapter in a car?
I don't know. And you know, my
You-
Outback had an outlet in the
That's what I
back
said. The
that I can plug
Outback
it
had it
into.
too.
Yeah, but I don't think my Crosstrek does.
Doesn't.
And I want to be honest with you. I just want to do something freaking easy that I don't have to do a whole lot with. I'm just kind of, you know,
You're going to need to go on the cold side then and do a dessert casserole of some sort.
well, that's what I was thinking. Dessert casserole, just
You remember
make
that?
something
You remember
easy.
that dump cake I made, the cherry peach dump
Right.
cake?
And I was looking at something similar to that. So I just want, like I said, I want something simple, something easy. Someone's already said that we're bringing the paper plates, so that's out. Someone's already bringing the drinks, so that's out.
Yeah.
And I know that one of my coworkers has been trying to convince the people that are in charge of this that apple pie is casserole, and they have been really very strict about,
Oh,
you know, like,
speaking of that,
I got it,
Chicago
John.
deep dish pizza's casserole. That,
well, technically, yes,
You gotta
it
heat
is.
yeah.
But I have
Go-
to
go
keep
get
it
the-
warm.
Go get the pasta salad that's in the box. Make a couple of those. Throw it in a casserole dish. Throw
She
some
won't eat
Parmesan
that,
cheese
though.
on top. Boom.
Mm-mm. And Anthony, I had thought about asking Nana Juju, that's my mom, y'all, if she would make banana pudding, but then I have to keep it cool. And I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Keeping it cool is not a problem. We can handle keeping something cool.
After this past little bit, I just, you know, every single freaking year, I'm bringing something, I'm doing something, and you know, it's just crazy.
I've got
So-
enough coolers around here that we can keep anything you want cold.
It'd be easier to keep it
I
cool
know,
than keep it
but
hot.
I think Russ, I seriously thought about that. But
Russ
I
already
have
said that. That was the pain in the eye. You couldn't see going
I
into work.
like the way Russ thinks.
It was already a no. So, yeah, Cindy, it has to be casserole. And I'm sitting here going, and all you can do. So here's the other deal. Like, you can't tell them what you're bringing. All you can say is that whether it is savory or sweet.
You need to go with sweet because then it can be cold.
Well, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I went out there and signed up and said, "Y'all, I'm bringing something, but I don't know what yet." So I don't know. It may be sweet. It may be savory. It may be both. It may be neither. I don't know. Maybe it'll be
Is a
umami.
cobbler? Can you make a cobbler turn into a casserole? Because
Oh, no, why not? If you put it in a casserole dish.
cobblers hold up fairly well at room temperature.
Yep.
Right. And I just want something, like I said, super duper easy. Now, Anthony, I got a
Pies,
cold
dude.
Jell-O.
Yeah. I don't know.
The old-fashioned vegetable
only-
Jell-O mold.
I would want to, if I were in her shoes, I would want to do savory and I would want to do hot. But the problem is Tanya's 90 miles away from where she works.
I am 77 miles away.
Well, 77 miles away. And
May as well be
80
90.
yeah.
Well, it depends on how I go. If I went the way that Waze wants me to go every day, it would be like 89 miles, so it would be 90. But like I'm a rebel and I don't go that way. So at any rate, I was just trying to think of something casserole-esque, and that would be easy. And I was just going to see, you know, collective heads out there. Do we
Tanya,
have like a really super?
When
easy-
is this event?
I'm
Is this
just gonna
next
be honest
Friday?
with you, I'm not feeling it. No, it's like next Thursday.
Okay, remind me tomorrow and let me post this question on my Man Cave Meals page and let
Okay.
me get the opportunity to get some feedback from people
And
see
just
if we
explain that there are several factors here. One, it has to be
Yeah.
casserole. Two, it needs to be easy because I'm just not feeling it. I don't want
you're
to.
not going to have an
the
place you can reheat it either, right?
No, that's the other thing. They're like, oh, well, we'll have outlets, and I'm like, well, what the hell good is an outlet if
I think your
I'm in a
best bet is bread
casserole
pudding.
dish? So I just want to do something simple, easy, and you know what? Bonus points if I can put it in a disposable pan and not have to even worry about bringing that home.
It's bread pudding is that good at room temperature?
Yep. By the
Okay,
time she
Tanya.
got there with the temperatures you guys are getting, it's going to stay cool in the car. Time she gets in
So
there and lunchtime,
I just
boom, it's
want,
ready to rock
like I
and roll.
said, super easy. I don't want anything complicated.
Somebody
You
wants to heat up their
know,
bread pudding, they put it in a bowl and throw it in the
Is
microwave.
is Ryan
so
Lowry with us tonight? I hadn't
He
seen. I don't
was.
know.
yeah, he was earlier.
Ryan did this French toast casserole thing that
Well, I had thought about that too, but
yeah.
I'm sitting here going, And with me being such a picky eater, I'm gonna like pack lunch anyway because
Yeah.
the chances of them having something that I'm gonna actually eat is probably not really good. So anyway. Janice did have a question. Thank you guys for considering my quandary. Janice did have a question. And y'all have talked a lot about Brunswick stew before. And
Okay.
so she just doesn't know what that consists of. So
You want to tell Janice what's in Brunswick stew, Jeff, or you want me to tell her?
Oh, you go ahead. I mean, that's
The way I look at Brunswick stew, now I have a very loose interpretation of what it is. It, in my opinion, is a meatloaf of the barbecue world where you can use leftovers and whatever
what
you
it is.
have to make this. The meat that goes in Brunswick stew can be pulled pork, brisket, chicken, or any
All the above.
combination of those things. Uh, then you put in vegetables, and uh, I, since I like okra, I like to put okra in my Brunswick stew. But Brunswick stew typically has what, Jeff? Corn, green beans, lima beans,
Yep.
uh, and like I said, I like okra in mine,
I had
and
seen peas in it.
peas. You put whatever you've got in it, and then it's got some amount of like chicken stock, and then like a whole bottle of barbecue sauce. Janice, I will send you a link to one of my Brunswick stew videos and let you have a look at that because I'd love to see you try this. And it's easy to make and it's great. And you can leave the lima beans out if you don't like lima beans. Uh,
So basically, as was John saying, Brunswick stew was usually in the old days was usually made at the end of the week where you had a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit, and it got all thrown together.
yep, and it's delicious. And here in my part of the country, Brunswick stew is a side item that you'll find at a lot of barbecue places. And in my opinion, it's not a great side item because of how heavy it is.
Mhm.
Brunswick stew is a meal on its own, and you can
Yep.
have like a 1 cup serving of Brunswick stew, and you're done.
Go
It's a
fork in one.
really it's not a stew in my opinion in terms of liquidity. It's really thick. It's just like a bunch of wet meat with vegetables in it, and it tastes delicious. It's
and
really
that's
good.
about the description of it in my opinion. Wet meat with vegetables
Yeah,
in it. So
Janice,
that's
they do
so
they serve
unappealing
it.
sounding, and that's exactly what it tastes like.
No, it tastes great, man. It's amazing, and there's so many directions you can go with it in terms of flavor by what kind of barbecue sauce you choose to put in it. I obviously like to use my favorite style of barbecue sauce, which is either going to be a Western North Carolina sauce or a Kansas City sweet sauce. Those are the
Dude,
ones
that
I
just
like,
that's
and
a good waste of barbecue sauce and okra.
well, you
So
know,
Ryan said that he's going to send me his recipe, and Cindy says I should make kugel.
Kugel.
Yes,
What is that?
she says it's a Polish sweet noodle dish.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one. So
Yeah, so Janice is with, with me on this one, and Anthony says it's paella. Yeah. No, I mean I will not touch Brunswick stew with a 10-foot pole. No.
Hey Jeff, my wife has been rubbing off on Janice this week because I think my wife said she's got Janice looking at a Jura.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh boy,
That's a
we've
good
talked.
thing.
Yeah, Sean, Western Carolina sauce. A Western Carolina sauce is a cross between a Kansas City sweet sauce and an Eastern North Carolina vinegar sauce
Vinegar
because
sauce.
what it is, it's a sweet sauce that's red in color that's got some tang to it. Now I love it.
It's
I
delicious.
really do love it.
Totally agreeing here,
Yeah.
Sean. It is delicious. Number one. And Cindy says she'd put her recipe out, John, so be looking for that.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Brian
Post
says I
it.
still need to make a Jura video.
Yeah.
Brian, I
Yeah.
tell you what, I'm going to try to do that. I'm working like super nut-o because it's the end of the semester and I'm trying to get everything done by the 15th so that on the 16th I won't have to do jack and I can have time to like totally relax and maybe I'll get a video made. Just keep in mind that my videos tend to be like normally I make tons of video, but it's like all educational, so it might be a snooze fest.
Tanya, I'll help you with the Jura video. What we need to do is make a video of the process of making one coffee drink, and then do 3 or 4 short videos on some of the various coffee drinks you make using the Jura.
I want to do
So,
like an 80s music video montage. Jura, Jura, Jura. Yeah. Yeah,
Sean
so I can
is
skip the casserole party. Yeah.
yeah. Sean, I like that Lily's Carolina Gold. That's a pretty good sauce. I like the mustard sauce, and I think the mustard sauce actually would do real well in a Brunswick stew. I haven't made it with one, but maybe I will.
Where do I post videos, Russ?
Not as the
In
primary
Moodle.
sauce, but as a secondary sauce, I would agree
Yeah,
with you.
Tanya doesn't make video content for social media yet. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
work on
no.
that.
I can send you a link to my all of my stuff is like unlisted. You have to have a link to it. I can send it to you, and if you're having difficulty sleeping, you can just randomly pick, and you can be like, "Oh, let's hear what Tanya has to say
The
about
video
Active Directory
the video content
replication."
that Tanya makes is for her students, so it's not something that you're gonna find appealing. And Russ, I want to
Yeah,
get you back on here with me one night. We'll talk about that. I talked to Russ a little bit earlier tonight about something else I've got going on. So uh, when I get more, when I have more information on that, I want to bring Russ back on here and talk about some stuff again. Uh,
yeah, we'll do the Van Halen grill.
yeah,
Yeah, I can totally make you guys a video. As a matter of fact, when Jeff and John were doing this pepper challenge, I actually started to enter it with my own contribution. But
yeah.
then, I was like, it's not going to be done on the grill, so they're not
The
going to
Van
enjoy
Halen,
that.
the Van Halen grill may move out.
Oh,
So
let's
what?
not talk about that.
I got to
I
figure
know
this
you
out,
keep talking about it, but let's not talk about that. I mean, just find
I've,
another freaking grill and recondition
guys.
it and keep
I've
this
got to
one.
make a little bit of room on the deck.
Get rid of the table
Yeah,
and
but not
chairs.
that one.
Get rid of what?
Get rid of the table and chairs. Nobody eats out there anyway.
Tanya, where do we have somewhere else I can relocate that table and chairs?
I can figure out something.
Because if I can, I might like to.
So
That
I
would keep
can
me from
figure
having to
out
get rid of a
something.
grill.
Maybe I can talk to Jiggly. That's my dad, y'all. I can
Yeah,
talk to
because
Jiggly and say,
if
"Hey,
I could
Jiggly,
find
I
a new
need to
home for
have a
that,
picnic pavilion."
if I could find a new home for that table and chairs, I wouldn't feel obligated to get rid of another grill. I'm trying to make space for another grill, and I I don't want to overcrowd things. So
Oh, dude, you have
Janice
no
already
idea,
had that
Dennis.
discussion with them.
Trying to find a cement place.
we talked about that earlier, and I was telling Jeff
Dick.
that I originally wanted a concrete slab, but we got the deck.
Yes, he did.
So
Yep, we got the deck.
I know, Levi. I don't want to get rid of that grill because I love it. I've got to put together a gas grill for my sister and brother-in-law. So what I'm going to have to do if I'm going to keep, I bought that grill to rehab and give to my sister and brother-in-law, but
But then he
after I
painted it.
got the idea of painting that thing like I did, I don't want to get rid of it, but I'm gonna have to go find another grill that I can rehab and give to my sister and brother-in-law. I need to find another Weber that I can do the same thing to, but not paint like that. So,
This is true.
all right. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Well,
Well,
thank you guys in
guys,
advance for all your casserole offerings.
and guys, I appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. Next week, I've got we'll just talk about some whatever Jeff and I've got cooking going on next week, and I did some other cooks this week that I might bring in and show you the details on next week. I've got I cooked some beef ribs this week that were actually I actually posted about those on Man Cave Meals, but I may bring those in, and maybe I'll try bread pudding. I'll try because, like I said, I need to give my mom something that she's going to want to do. So maybe bread pudding will happen next week, and I'll cook that on one of the grills. I'll be curious to see how bread pudding would fare on, I guess, the Camp Chef, Jeff, because I need bread pudding to be able to brown across the top, and I'm not sure I'd be able to pull that off on the Kamado. So curious.
Unless you put it in the dojo.
Or I put it in the oven. I don't know. I could try the dojo. That might work. So, all right. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week. We got Christmas coming up, so I'm not doing anything particularly oriented to Christmas. So, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging out with us.